What's up, everybody? This is Super Mike 2164. We're broadcasting on the B1 Math, Science, and History channel. And I want to touch base on, I'm late on the recorder based on my own time, but I did want to get this through because this is one of the vital histories that uh, just like they teach you Rome, just like they teach you uh, Greece, just like they teach you about European history and, you know, all of that, Henry VIII and the French Revolution. They're teaching you about world history, but it seems very convenient that they leave out the black parts. Okay. Black people were not spared, just a lot of the people that you see in Africa, they're descendants from folks that were more advanced than them. And then some of them were simple country folks, but that's what we have. We have simple country folks here. We have simple country folks all around the world. What I wanted to do, guys, like I said, this is just going to be a reading, but I want to give a little bit of information about the Moors of Spain. Uh, and like I said, you can press the thumbs up or share it, but this is just because a lot of people don't understand. You had a civilization that was started in basically 711 AD, and that thing lasted right up into 1492. Isn't it really convenient? 1492 that Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue from where? Spain. Interesting. But you don't learn anything about this history. Why? Because it's a black history. It's a black history. So we want to read the book called The Moors of Spain a little bit. I'm just going to give you guys some information about the Moors of Spain, and we'll just look up a couple of things, and then we'll please close this out. I don't want to make this one very long. I just want people to be able to look at it, just to get a little bit of information and then do some more research. So this is the book that when I first read it, it's called The Moors of Spain by, this is the cover art on the one that I have. But let me hold on one second here. Let me just show you guys a little bit of this. Sharing the screen here. All right. Yeah. So it's by Stanley Lane Poole. Okay. And this guy was what's going on, brother? Speak. What's up, brother? Yeah, what's up? And Leroy, he left a message. He probably sleep right now because, you know, I was late here. But like I said, yeah, and make sure you press the thumbs up, share it, do all the wild stuff. Because this is information. Because guess what? I was hearing people, just to show where I got this from. There's a lot of people online that all they hear about the Moors is that, oh, they was messing with white women, and they help enslaved us. F all of them, fuck all the Moors. Basically, this is what they. This is what I'm hearing, and it's just showing you people don't know that they. You're talking about a group of people that was was a big part of our lineage. It's called the it's called Iberian province. So if you're looking at your DNA, you talking about Iberian province uh, lineage. That's them, and all of us have some of that in our lineage. Some of us have a lot more than others. I just wanted to show. I was trying to show one of the conversation. Let me see here where I was. Yeah, but let me see if I can get. Let me see if I got one of them. So, like this here. Now, talking with a human being who identifies themselves with Satan. This literally is what we're dealing with here nowadays on the internet. This is people, yeah, they 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 call themselves Satan. See, look at that. This is a person. Supposedly, this is a black person. But anyway, okay. So let me see here. We went into this. I, but see, this is what they do. They deceive. But I wanted to just touch on what. Let's see. Trying to see if I had. So this person asked this question, talking about what's the flaws in black men that make them inferior. So tells me either you're not considering yourself a black man or something else is weird. Okay. So of course we say there's no flaws in us. We're just dealing with our issues that we got to clean up, just like every other group of people. All right. Let's see. I was trying to. Anyway, the Moors got mentioned, and this person just kind of flipping them off. And a lot of people. Then somebody else on here was talking about how the Moors they didn't do anything and all this kind of crap. So we want to go into some of that. I just want to go into a little bit of it, just so we can get an idea of who the Moors were and just basic stuff. So this is the book. I'm not going to read from this one yet, but let me read this here. I just want to read some of the introduction on this book is by this man John G. Jackson. And if you don't know Black history, you should look up, especially if you're a Black person. Look up some of these people. Look up some of these. They got YouTube stuff. This is one who teaches. Dude, do you know you live in the modern time where these lessons would normally be lost? You wouldn't see this stuff, and you get a chance to see it from the lecturer. So, and so this is the stuff that these are like libraries that they love to burn. Because when you burn a library, you just cut off the knowledge from the next generation. So this is what they worked real hard to get this information out. So y'all should just run around and look at some of this stuff. But I just want to see just who George J. Jackson. He wrote a good book called The Introduction to African Civilizations. Now they've taken a lot of our language of our Black people, especially Black Americans, and they've turned our language into pejoratives. So woke is now is something bad. Okay, pro-Black is bad. This is crazy. Okay, now they've changed us from Black. We're, when we were making progress, Black people were doing research, and we were doing things as far as trying to get into the government, and we were Black and proud. We were trying to do things for our community, and Black schools, Black hospitals, Black international trade, Black business. Okay, we were proud, okay, of that. So now we got people talking about, okay, they're Native American, which is true. We're Native American, but we're still Black. So I don't know what that, you want to claim, you want to shout out your tribe, which is fine. You're the Lumbee, you're the Blackfeet, you're the Black Seminoles, you're the Shoshone tribe, you're this, you're that, you're the Pequots, you're the Wampanoags, you're the, Narragansetts, you're the Lumbees, you're, whatever, the Mississippi Choctaws, you're, whatever you are, but you're not united anymore. Now you're a bunch of different shit. And the white people, they love tribes. That's what happened in Australia. That's what happened down in South America. All these damn tribes. You guys are weak as a tribe. So Dane Calloway, he's not successful. He doesn't want to call himself black. Is he more successful than the black people who call themselves black? No. You know, you look at these more science temple people. For 100 years, they've been talking about, oh, we're not black. We don't call us black. We're, different or whatever the hell they are. Now, the Moorish Science Temple is more actually means black, but it's just not English. But anyway, but they're not doing nothing special. So it's clear that the black part of just the language alone, it did serve to help unify us. It's the same thing with white. Their tribal arguments, they were killing each other and stuff. They called themselves white. So let's look at George Jackson. And now some people want to call us Africans. I don't.
The United States should go over to Europe and save democracy. Wilson said he was going to make the world safe for democracy. Wilson was born in Virginia, and he couldn't even make Virginia safe for democracy, but he was going to make the world safe for democracy. So he got into the war. But at any rate, I would be sitting in class.
So that's just one. Here's another one. This is one of my favorite. Ivan Van Sertima. I'm just giving you guys little research points to look up the Moors, more of it. See, the Moors, I have this book, which was kind of hard for me to get, but I'm not going to read that one. I'm reading Stanley Lane Poole's book, which is the first one that I read. Moors. The Moors invaded Europe, okay, with these same white people. This is part of one of the issues that, let me see here, that white people have with us that we didn't know about. Here it is, the Moors. This is why y'all have to know this, because a lot of us don't understand. Oh, why does you white people have this problem with us and this and that? We haven't been hurt and we didn't do shit to them. And then, yeah, you kind of did, but you just don't remember because they wiped your memory. They're so damn scared of you relearning this information, because then you'll start to tap into the lessons of these ancestors, which these are some of our direct ancestors. Okay. And now we're going to go just touch on Estevanico, the Moors. Estevanico. Hold on a second. I'll show y'all a couple. So these are just things y'all should look up on your own if this interests you. Estevanico. He was a slave. So this is a black man. See, he came here to America. So, and you're going to see, and I'm just going to say it in a nutshell, but you can read all the steps of this. Let's see here. Where should I put this? I'll do it right here. Let's listen to a little bit of what Ivan Van Sertima say. I'm just going to listen to him. He's so good, I can just stop it anywhere. He's going to hit you with some good stuff. Subscribe to this channel called Transatlantic Productions. They archive a lot of those black lectures. This is our legacy. You don't suppose, if you look at this stupid shit from Sonetta and them that's going on nowadays, they're not honoring the true masters of the black research history. Okay, our people, our researchers, they were educated. Okay, they weren't niggas all ghetto on the street just doing weird stuff, screaming at each other and stuff. They didn't debate each other all the time. They were debating white people. The nowadays Sonetta, I don't see him. the people on his channel. They're not going after the white people's whatever. They're not trying to harness some of the knowledge and do something with it. They're not trying to recreate no civilizations, no neighborhoods. They're not trying to teach us how. Only the old people that's doing that, maybe. But this is what they're trying to pretend to be. Our black researchers who, now, like I said, they did make mistakes. Our researchers made mistakes, so they're not perfect. Some of them they wasn't right. Some of them was not right, which is all the time. That's normal. That's just historical. There we have more information. Now we see that part there was wrong. This part maybe, that kind of thing. So these people are not church people. You're not supposed to, oh, whatever they say must have been true. No, not necessarily. It's just that what they were doing is to the best of their research ability at that time, they were analyzing the facts, and then they were getting information out to us, okay? And they were empowering their community, okay, with the history. Now, the Afrocentric vibe, it wasn't smart because really black folks are not, we're not just from Africa. And see, this was the linchpin issue. They thought that they were going to, because they, we do have lineage from, there's black people in Egypt, but that's not it, Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. There's now the thing is, Sinetta and them are making money. A lot of our older black people, researchers, a lot of them died broke. A lot of them didn't make money, which they should have made money. And it just shows you how that's how the bad the community was. Like, you know, this woman was a psychologist, Frances Cress Welsing. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she had a degree. She could have been definitely an Ivy League college professor thing, but she decided to help black people. Right. So at that time, there was no money in it. But now you can make money because because of these people's work, there is now the kids of those people who were listening in these people are doing lectures in the black community. They're doing lectures in front of audiences, teaching. Okay. That's what they're doing. And these people, they paid a little bit of money, but it wasn't a big thing. It was big, it was nice size, but people wasn't paying like that. But those people had children. And right now, that's the reason why Sinetta can make money. This is the reason why, you can actually, especially if you're doing history, black history, and plus with the internet too, you can make money. But let me go into this. But see, this stuff is not being taught. All the arguing it doesn't help us.
In Europe, he went out because from where he originated in Eastern and Southern Africa, where he found the last modern man. In fact, in Hawaii and California, the University of Berkeley was announced that all human beings on this planet spring from a black woman, that was in Africa about 120,000 years ago. So that after the Australopithecus goes side, Australopithecus, Gracile, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo this and Homo that. Then came the Neanderthal man, then comes the final man, which is Grimaldi man. Grimaldi man emerges in Europe.
So right now he's going through some of what they're knowing at that time as, which I don't believe none of that shit. Which I can believe some of it, but they keep changing it. The scientists about the origin of men, from monkeys, and then you got to go to the Cro-Magnon, and then the Neanderthals, and then the modern humans and all that crap, and so it's something to it, but I don't believe that they got that right. I don't think that's all right. Let's try to fast forward to see if we can hear something about the Moors.
Great African thinkers. There are folks in African presence in the art of America. There's a whole range of folks. Black women in antiquity, etc. You are not to go without these things. It is not enough to make hollow bones or outlandish statements about what blacks did in history. It is important that you should know the facts. If some of you learn the Bible by heart, most of our mothers or grandmothers or grandfathers learn the Bible by heart. Why shouldn't we learn our history by heart? There are certain people among us, and I need to name them. You ask them about anything in their history, they will recite you page, chapter, and verse. We have to learn to do that because that is a protection, a tremendous protection against the loss of our past. The loss of that past, the inability to present and project it in such a way as to give us a certain strength during the years of our fragmentation and disunity and loss. Those are the things that kept us away from the kind.
All right, so and also this is the book that I have actually. Let's see. I'm not gonna. All right, so somebody's reading this book, but I have this book, and it's just research about the Moors. All right. Also, this guy Chris, he's a more modern historian. Christopher Walker. He's from Britain, and he's very professional. So I like that. So let's get into some of this here. Okay. Now, actually, I want to read this. Let me see. Here it is. All right. So this is the artwork on the cover of the one that I have. I'm just going to read a little bit of this. Yeah. Ego and pocket watching. But see, that's true. But at the same time, we got to, we don't understand how much we miss when we don't know this stuff. You talk to these Native Americans, you talk to these other groups of people, they have their origin stories. Okay, their origin stories, they know a lot about their lineage. When we don't know that, sometimes we don't even know what we're missing. If we don't know, we don't have our kids know this or that. Oh yeah, the Moors of Spain. You research it, basic stuff at least. This society is almost about to go to World War III right now. So this thing is almost done here. And this was only like, what, 200, 300 years old? Our ancestors had the Moors, which is, like I said, we should know this because it's just like when you're talking about, 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, you're dealing with us here in America. But when you start going to 1400s, then you start dealing with us in Native America, because that's true. Some of that's true. Now, what's the name? Dane Calloway. He didn't just make all of it up. He has some truth, but then he comes with bullshit too. So, and that's what I mean. Like, nowadays we have researchers that could be respected, but some of these guys are not concerned with facts. They're all emotional, and then they want to fight and battle each other. They want to argue all the time, just like this is some kind of battle royale, like this is a damn fist fight. They don't understand that your history is your narrative. That is your collective identity. That is who you are. Okay, you can't play with that because then you fracture the people, and that's one of the reasons why the people don't have. It's a weakness, is because no one's included. It's not like we still have some inclusion. We still know who we are, but there are pockets of people who are like trying to tribe up, and we got all of this aboriginals versus just weird shit, bro. It's a lot of weird shit, especially on the internet. but it's starting to seep out into real life too. So let me read this little section about this artwork. Now, this book was published 100 years ago, over 100 years ago. It was 1886. Stanley Lane Poole published this book. This particular artwork was painted over is in 1878. I think this 18. Hold on a second. Let me look at it. Sorry. Yeah. So 1878. And a lot of us, and then Edward Charlemont painted it in 1848. Well, no, he was born in 1848 and died in 1906. But the Moorish chief, so you got to realize he painted this, the Moorish chief, 1878. Okay, black folks had just finished the Civil War. Black American had just finished the Civil War, like 12 years before that, 13 years before that. We had Reconstruction. They just started Jim Crow. That was like 1 year of Jim Crow after the 1877 Compromise. Okay. And white folks was treating you like trash, telling you ain't nothing, you ain't got no flag. At the same time, they knew, the smarter ones of them knew. See, this is why they were scared. They knew this is what you came from. This is not, they didn't show us this picture. They just like, oh, y'all from Africa. That's it. And then now these people were Africans, but they wasn't all in Africa. They had literally taken over and controlled Europe. They controlled Spain. They controlled parts of Italy and North Africa. Okay, so the military force. This was our, So literally, like I said, when you understand that this is directly in line with you, you should research these things. And these things are known. This is not like conspiracy theory. It is not, now somebody would say, oh, this is some pro-black bullshit. It's still a fact. Like, you can say what it is, whatever you want to say what it is. This is the history. It's just what it happened. This is what happened. Okay. Now, it's good, it's bad. That's why we know that it's the history. It's both. It's good. It's some good things they did. There's some bad stuff they did. Just learn it. Okay. So anyway, let me go a little bit more into this art part just so we can see it. So it says about the artwork, a tall bearded man stands at the top of the stairs in the doorway to a beautiful palace dressed in stunningly white robes. He looks down at us from his perch at the threshold and this impressive architectural space. A crimson red cap is just barely visible underneath the hooded cloak he wears. The man barely visible underneath the hooded cloak he wears. The man faces us with his left foot firmly planted on the top of the stairs and his right on the stair below. As if stopped mid-stride, his left hand gathers his robes at his knee, revealing his sandaled feet and bare ankles. In his other hand, he holds a sword, the long, slender blade extending down at his side towards his outer toes. The outer layer of his white robes is lifted over his right shoulder, revealing his muscular arm and two richly decorated scabbards tucked into his golden belt. The golden and bejeweled handle of the blade is clearly visible in one scabbard, while the other is empty, likely belonging to the sword at his side. So, I'm not going to read the whole damn thing. So Edward Charlemont was born in 1848 in Vienna, the capital of Austria. So these are Europeans. They know, okay. His father was a professional artist who painted miniature portraits and encouraged his talented son to help in his workshop and learn from this practice. Charlemagne went on to study painting at the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna and later traveled throughout Europe, eventually settling in Paris, the center of the art world in the 1800s. Charlemagne lived in Paris for the next 30 years of his life, and in that time he won several prizes at the Paris Salons, the annual government-sponsored exhibitions hosted by the whatever it's called, just some French word, Académie des Beaux-Arts. His masterwork was not a painting, but rather a series of murals created for Vienna City's theater that each measured about 60 feet in length. So the Moorish chief was purchased by Philadelphia lawyer and art collector John G. Johnson, who in 1917 gifted his entire collection of European art to the city of Philadelphia. So this picture is in the city of Philadelphia. Okay. Excuse me, the Museum of Art in Philadelphia. So the collection now resides in Philadelphia Museum of Art, where the Moorish chief has become one of the most beloved paintings in the museum. Charlemagne achieved only moderate success as a painter in his lifetime and never became as well known as many of his peers who also exhibited artworks at the at the annual salon. In spite of this, more reproductions of the Moorish chief are sold in museum store than any other work of art in the collection, which speaks to the lasting power of this masterpiece. So like I said, this art just shows you, when you see this picture, it's just not something that some niggas just made up, just so we can have some black pride real quick. Let's make up some shit here. We can have some black pride. No, that white guy painted this over 100 years ago. They knew it wasn't about black pride. It's not about Afrocentrism. This is a piece of art about the people who ran Europe for a long time. Okay. They have this stuff. So it's not, nowadays because there's so much anti-black stuff out there. It's a shame that if you say this, there's Arabs and all these other people. Oh, they wasn't black. There was Arabs. Well, they were black Arabs. Arabs, that is, this is the same thing as the Olmecs. Oh, they wasn't Olmecs. They wasn't black. They was Latin, which didn't exist back then. But, they was indigenous. Well, yeah, they were black indigenous people. Okay, so, anyway. So I just wanted to read that. Let's go. I'll just go into the book here just a little bit. I'm going to read the introduction on the book, actually. I'll leave this up real quick. So, just got a little bit left. Like I said, we're going to try to make this quick. Get out of here. If we want to do a second one, y'all can say it out. I'll do some more from this, but like I said, you should get this book. It's called The Story of the Moors in Spain. Okay. So, and this is republished. It's republished by Black Classic Press. Okay. And they Black Classic Press, they publish a lot of the old books that, black folks and people were writing stuff, in the 1900s and the 1800s. You don't see that shit. But what were those lessons? You can get that stuff. You can get that stuff. Have you a library? Have you a library? Learn about some shit. Learn about some stuff about your own people. This is what gives you a certain strength, a certain confidence when you're talking and you're dealing with different groups of people. When you have what's called knowledge of yourself. You know your history and the history of your family and your people. And then you know the histories of others. All right, so let's see. The author of this great study, Stanley Edward Lane Poole, was born in London on December 18th, 1854. His father, Edward Stanley Poole, was an Arabic scholar. His brother, Reginald Lane Poole, was an eminent historian who served on the staff of the British Museum and Oxford University. Privately educated, Stanley Lane Poole took up Oriental studies. Now, Orientals, I used to think that just meant like Chinese people or Asian folks, but it actually is just anything over this. This is the names white people be giving stuff. It's just anything over in Asia and in the Middle East. Let me look up Stanley Lane Poole. Let's see if I can find a picture of him. I should have had his picture. Let's see. Just so you know, like I said, and this is for the people who, like I said, we're so anti-black that we got to hear it from the white man. So just so you know, this is what the white man said about the Moors. Stanley Lane Poole is a white man. Okay. He wrote these other books, The Moors After Spain. He got a lot of other books too, because this is what this man studied. And so this is a white man, just so y'all know. Stanley Lane Poole. All right, let's go back to this. So this man, his family was an eminent historian. His father was a historian. Stanley Lane Poole took up Oriental studies under the tutelage of his uncle, Reginald S. Poole, who worked in the coin department of the British Museum in 1874. He matriculated at Corpus Christi College, Oxford University. On the death of his great uncle, Edward William Lane, in 1876, Stanley Lane Poole undertook the completion of his kinsman's Arabic lexicon. He worked on this dictionary from 1877 to 1893. In the meantime, he became the Orientalist and Egyptologist and wrote several scholarly books. In addition to The Moors of Spain, he wrote Turkey, 1888, The Barbary Cossars, 1890, and the history of the Mughal emperors of Hindustan. See, notice how much emphasis these people put on, learning about others' history. So they know their history, but then they have to learn about the histories of these other groups of people. So this is how they know our psychology, our collective psychology. They know the Indians in Hindustan, what's called Hindustan, the Turkish people. This is what they know. During the years 1895 to 1897, Stanley Lane Poole worked as an archaeologist for the Egyptian government from 1898 until his retirement in 1904. He was a professor of Arabic at Trinity College, Dublin, Ireland. After retiring in 1904, Lane Poole lived in London until his death on December 29, 1931. Of all his historical works, The Moors of Spain is the preeminent, and it is a privilege of the present reader to study this great historical work. Eurocentric historians argue that Europe gave rise to civilization to Africa, which is a complete inversion of the truth. The first civilized Europeans were the Greeks, who were chiefly civilized by the Africans of the Nile Valley. The Greeks transmitted the culture to the Romans, who finally lost that culture, which they did. And they're going through the history real quick, which is true. So the Greeks, they didn't even have an alphabet. So, we see their alphabet, but that's really the Egyptian alphabet. But they got their systems from their teachers in Kemet. So they kept that history, taking baths and all that, and they transmitted that to the Romans. When the Romans fell and split up, they split their kingdoms up, which Turkey was one, which Istanbul was called Constantinople, which is where they had the Council of Nicaea, which is where your current Bible canons were argued out. Okay, so this is all these historical places that we should probably know a little bit about. And then the Western, I think it was Eastern Rome and Western Rome, which is their capital now, basically Italy. And they went back into savagery, and the new people who re-civilized their butts was the Moors. So the Greeks transmitted the culture to the Romans, who finally lost it, bringing on a dark age of 500 years. Civilization was restored to Europe when another group of Africans, the Moors, brought the dark age to an end. Meanwhile, re-civilizing the Christian barbarians of Europe. During the golden age of Islam, the Moorish Empire, with territory in both Africa and Europe, was the most advanced state in the world. The specific contributions of this era have been well stated by Lady Florina Louise Charles Lugard. They started quoting other people who say the same thing. I'm not going into all that. So, they quote people who say the same thing. Let's go into a little bit more. I want to go into what George G. Jackson says. Or John G. Jackson, I should say. Oh, actually, this is what he's saying. So this is what John G. Jackson is saying. I'm reading that's from his book. That's from his introduction here. So he quotes people. I want to go through this other part. All right, let's see here. And John G. Jackson is this guy. I showed him earlier. The high yellow black old man. And actually, you know what? Let me go. Okay. It was one part that I wanted to read. Let me see. So it says here, in ancient times, Africans in general were called Ethiopians. In medieval times, most Africans were called Moors. In modern times, some Africans were called Negroes. And it keep changing. The Ethiopians were named by the Greeks. The word Ethiopia means burnt face, from the Greek names Ethios, which means face. This description referred to the dark complexion of these Africans, which the Greeks attributed to sunburnt. In the literature on Africa, Africans are commonly identified in two groups, one progressive, the other backward. The progressive people are called Hamites, Cushites, Moors, etc. Whereas the backward ones are called Negroes. The word Negro comes from the Latin word Niger, meaning black. And really, it comes from dead, necro, which is the Latin. And we know that the letter G used to be a C, and that's because of their different pronunciation over time, different words. They used to use it in the place of a K. But different words like necros, which is dead, black, this is from the Roman perspective. That's how that is. And so, that's kind of that part. Let me go into this. I just want to go into a little bit more of this book real quick, The History of Spain. I guess I can read that from here. I can read this part from here where y'all can see it. Because that was a new edition. But we can go here. Which I won't read this whole thing. Just giving y'all some of it. All right, so it says the history of Spain. This is interesting to me, though. The history of Spain offers us some melancholy contrast. 1,200 years ago, Tariq the Moor added the land of the Visigoths to the long catalog of kingdoms subdued by the Muslims. For nearly 8 centuries under her Mohammedan rulers, Spain set to all Europe a shining example of a civilized and enlightened state. Her fertile provinces, rendered doubly prolific by the industry and engineering skill of her conquerors, bore fruit and hundredfold. Cities innumerable sprang up in the rich valleys of Guadalquivir and whatever that's called, Guadania, whose names and names only still commemorate the vanished glories of their past. Art, literature, and science prosper as they then prospered nowhere else in Europe. Students flocked from France and Germany and England to drink of the fountain of learning, which flowed only in the city of the Moors. The surgeons and doctors of Andalusia were in the van of science. Women were encouraged to devote themselves to serious study, and the lady doctor was not unknown among the people of Cordoba. Mathematics, astronomy, and botany, history, philosophy, and jurisprudence were to be mastered in Spain, and Spain alone. The practical work of the field, the scientific methods of irrigation, the arts of fortification and shipbuilding. So shipbuilding. And this tells us also that they were coming over here, because in another thing, they were coming over here. If you notice, one of the biggest parts, just as a side note for people who know that people were coming over here well before Columbus. The biggest language group of the Native Americans is called the Algonquin. Algonquin. So, the Algonquin language maps. These are the Native American languages. These are the Native American tribal groups who speak this Algonquin. Notice here, definitely, they're internal now, but here, that's where, the East Coast, they were coming over here learning that. Not from here, which is where they said the Indians came from Alaska up across the Bering Straits down this way. These are different language people over here. The Algonquin, which is, you talking about algebra, you're talking about Al-Andalus, all that stuff. That's over here, just as a side note. And so the story of the Moors. So basically, You know, this is what black folks was doing. The practical work of the field, the scientific method, the highest, most elaborate products of the loom, and the graver, the hammer, the potter's wheel, the mason's trowel were brought to perfection by the Spanish Moors. So when you talk about masonry, okay, those buildings were so nice. Okay, when those white people finally took over in 1492 and got the Moors to surrender, which is 800 years later, from when they finally got the Moors to surrender, those buildings were so nice the white people could not rebuild them. They didn't tear them down. They're still there today. That's how good those buildings were being built. And then they forced those folks to become their slaves and to come over here and build a lot of the stuff. A lot of those first mansions down there in these southern towns and stuff. You know, a lot of that stuff is from black folks who learned their skills from their fathers, who learned their skills from their fathers. This is where, and a lot of those mansions are still there today. They're over 200 some years old. Black folks built. Okay. So, like I said, this thing directly comes right over here. Literally, you know. So it says the Spanish Moors in the practice of war, no less than the arts of peace, they long stood supreme. Their fleets disputed the command of the Mediterranean with the Fatimites. Those are some Arab peoples. While their armies carried fire and sword through the Christian marches, the Cid himself, and that's a whole nother story, the Cid himself, the national hero, long fought on the Moorish side, and in all save education was more than half a Moor. Whatsoever makes a kingdom great and prosperous, whatsoever tends to refinement and civilization was found in Muslim Spain. In 1492, the last bulwark of the Moors gave way before the crusade of Ferdinand and Isabel, and with Granada fell all Spain's greatness. For a brief while, indeed, the reflection of the Moorish splendor cast a borrowed light upon the history of the land, which it had once warmed with its sunny radiance. The great epic of Isabella, Charles V, and Philip II, of Columbus, Cortez, and Pizarro shed a last halo. So after the Moors fell, it just was slavery and destruction, basically, for 500 years after that. It was over. It was over for you. Once that thing fell, everybody was scared because you had to forget every damn thing. So the great epic of Isabel Pizarro shed light on the halo of the dying moments of a mighty state. Then followed the abomination of desolation, the rule of the Inquisition. They was burning people, and the blackness of darkness in which Spain had been plunged ever since. In the land where science was once supreme, Spanish doctors became noted for nothing but their ignorance and incapacity, and discoveries of Newton and Harvey were condemned as pernicious to the faith. Where once 70 public libraries had fed the minds of scholars and 500,000 books had been gathered together at Cordoba for the benefit of the world, such indifference to learning afterwards prevailed that the new capital, Madrid, possessed no public library in the 18th century, and even the manuscripts of the Escurial were denied. I don't know what this is. I need to look that up. The Escurial were denied in our own days to the first scholarly scholarly historian of the Moors. Oh, I guess they were trying to find some history, and in that time, the 1800s. This is written in the 1800s. Okay, so they were trying to find something, and they denied them. They didn't want to show it to them. And these, like I said, these are white people. So the manuscripts were denied in our own days to the first scholarly historian of the Moors, though himself a Spaniard. The 16,000 looms of Seville soon dwindled to a fifth of their ancient number. The arts and industries of Toledo, and keep in mind, we still have some of these same names over here in the United States, and Almeria faded into insignificance. The very baths, public buildings of equal ornament, use were destroyed because cleanliness savored too strongly of rank infidelity. Mm. The land, the land deprived of skillful irrigation of the Moors grew impoverished. Which had filled every district of Andalusia, fell into ruinous decay, and beggars, friars, and bandits took the place of scholars, merchants, and knights. Sounds like the black community. It sounds like that's interesting now, ain't it? You know, they know how to turn stuff bad, don't they? Such is the melancholy contrast offered by her history. Happily, we have here only to do with the first of these contrastic periods, with Spain in her glory under the Moors, not with Spain in her degradation under the Bourbons. The Bourbons. We have endeavored to present the most salient points in the 8 centuries of the Mohammedan rule without prejudice or extenuation, and while not neglecting the heroic characters and legends which appeal to the imagination of the reader, we have especially sought to give a clear picture of the struggles between races and creeds. So they wasn't ignorant of racial categories, okay? So, you know, and this is from Richmond Survey. So that was written in 1886. So, you know, that just shows you some of that. And I think I want to go into just show you the contents. Let's look at that real quick. I'm not going to read none of this stuff, but this was a good book. I read this book real quick. It's a pretty good book. So it says, this is the contents. Sam. The last of the Goths. Okay. So they actually took over Spain from the Visigoths, which were ruled from Rome. You know, they were believing in Hercules and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, the wave of conquest, you know, the people of Andalusia, the young pretender, they go into literally some of the rulers throughout the time. The Christian martyrs, they go into also the struggle all throughout that time. They were fighting the white folks. The great Caliph, the holy wars, the city of Caliph, the prime ministers, and the Berbers in power, Masid, the challenger, the kingdom of Granada, the fall of Granada, bearing the cross. Okay. Then they got pictures and all kinds of stuff in there. So like I said, that's a book. I want to also just show you, let's look at this here. These are the cities. Like they fix them up, of course. They keep fixing them up because people still live there. But this is the basic architecture. But this is from. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. Oops, sorry. Let me see if I can find it. See if this is in Spain. Yeah. So, like, this is one of the actual. I mean, this thing is still there. The Great Mosque in Cordoba. This was there 1,000 years, oh, damn near 1,000 years, or 500 years ago at least. I don't know when it was actually built, but yeah, this was there. So just some of the architecture. All right. I want to also go into Estevanico the Moor. I want to see if I can find something on this guy. And then we'll go. Sorry. So Estevanico, he was only born in 1500 and died in 1539. So he was only 39 years old when he passed away. Let me see if I can find something in recording on him. Just so we can listen to it. I'm looking at the wrong damn thing. Sorry. Yeah, Esteban the Moor. Let's do this then. So, Estevanico, also called Esteban or Esteban, Estevanico, Black Stephen, and Stephen the Moor. He was a Muslim slave from North Africa, Azamor, Morocco, who was one of the early explorers of the southwestern United States. Estevanico was the slave of Andreas Dorantes de Corazon, who took him on the Narvaez Pizarro expedition to Tampa Bay, Florida in 1528. A series of hurricanes and fights with Native Americans killed many of the crew, and the pilot of the ship sailed to Mexico, abandoning the men. The 250 to 300 stranded men hastily made 5 makeshift rafts on which they sailed west, hoping to reach a Spanish settlement in Mexico. 3 rafts sank, but the 2 surviving rafts carrying 80 men landed at Galveston Island in Texas, basically. Narvaez did not survive. All right. After a very cold winter with very little food, only 15 men survived. In spring, the men traveled west by land, walking along the Rio Grande. By 1533, there were only 4 survivors, including Estevanico, Corazon, Cabeza de Vaca, and Alonso Castiglione Maldonado. The men were enslaved by some Indian tribes along the way and were helped by other tribes. See? So when we're talking about Indians, you can't just, first of all, Indian, that's in India. These people were Indian from India. They were Native American. They were just the natives, and they were different nations. So the men were enslaved by some tribes along the way and were helped by other tribes. They were the first non-natives to travel in this area of the southwestern North America. That's what they say. Okay. The four men finally reached the Spanish settlement of Culiacan in early 1536, 8 years after being stranded in Florida. Later that year, they reached Mexico City, where they were welcomed by the Viceroy Antonio Mendoza. Corazon sold Estevanico to the Viceroy. So Corazon then sold Estevanico to the Viceroy. The Viceroy sent Estevanico on an expedition in 1539 with Franciscan Fray Marcos de Niza. Francisco de Coronado outfitted Estevanico for this trip to find the fabled 7 cities of Cibola. On this trip, Estevanico was killed by Zuni Indians as he entered their pueblo. So that's how he got killed. Some Indians killed him. All right, so, but he was a black man. He was a Moor. Yeah, so this is, let's see if we can find some artwork just to show you. They have some depictions. I know they have a bust of him though. But yeah, I guess this is what they want to show. But anyway, that's just a little history on the Moors. The Moors did a lot of different things. Some of the stuff that the people can't stand the Moors about is they did have slavery. They were enslaving white people, definitely. But then they felt like this is the reason why white people wanted to try to get their lick back and enslave us, enslaving the Moors and stuff. So that part. But also, like I said, a lot of science, a lot of the math. Of course, we know algebra. We know, just so many of the sciences, the masonry, all sorts of stuff. These are things that black folks came up with. And like I said, some of the direct ancestors of us. So like I said, this is just something that I wanted to kind of do real quick, just so we can have, and you guys make sure you check these things out. Look into this. If this interests you more, look into it, because and make sure you teach your children this stuff, and let me know what you think. Peace out.